Hey, what's up, everyone? It's Nitreg from nitreg.com, and today I'm going to try something new. I'm going to be doing a video review that I just played at 25 and L4 ring on Black Chip Poker. I haven't really done a review on Black Chip Poker yet, and I will go ahead and do that in the near future. Again, I've been pretty busy with school, so I haven't actually posted in the last maybe like 7 to 10 days or so, which is really bad. If you guys have been following my site, I usually post maybe every other day, every third day, on average. But anyway, let's go ahead and head on into the video here. What I'm trying new is I'm going to be playing it very fast, 4 times the speed, and I think that's going to be good because it'll blow through everything that's incredibly boring, and we'll get to a lot of content really fast. And obviously, when I get to the content, I'll go ahead and pause it, and we can go ahead and watch from there. So let's go ahead and get started. Let me go ahead and mute myself really quick here. There we go. I mute myself in the video. As you can see in the top right, just go ahead and isolate Ace-Jack offsuit. Pretty standard. The guy limped under the gun, and I'm pretty confident that I'm one of the best players at the table. Just there's a lot of fish out at 25 and L black chip, so Ace-Jack is just going to play really well. I can hit pairs and just go for value. Unfortunately, this flop really sucks, especially three-way. This is just going to be one of those flops where you just check fold. It's one of those things I get asked about a lot by my students. They ask, when should I c-bet, when should I just check fold, when should I check call, stuff like that. I'll try to go ahead and do some video series on that in the future, but this board is really wet, and it just really sucks. Like, it's going to be hard for us to improve, and this is going to hit a fish's calling range pre-flop a lot because they'll have a lot of like suited connectors and stuff. And they're not going to go anywhere if they have any sort of draw whatsoever. So just check and give up here. And also, by the way, I tried six tabling and tiling it. I always play with overlap, but for some reason that drives people nuts that watch videos. I'm not sure why, but I gotta answer my customers. All right, so I went ahead and tiled it. It was a little hard for me to see. I had to squint every now and again. I got a huge monitor, but hopefully on this video it turns out okay. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure to check that little gear icon down in the bottom right, and you can set the quality to high definition, and that way you should be able to see it fully and be able to make out what every character says. I think it's 1080p high definition, only at nitreg.com. Top right table, so a guy limps under the gun, and this short stack guy goes ahead and pops it up huge. I've got queens here, and he's short stack, and he looks like he's just trying to commit himself. So I'm just going to raise queens, get it in. He ends up flatting, which is absolutely terrible. He put in like 2/3 of his stack, and now what? So I just go ahead and put him all in here. He calls it off. He's got the ace king. He definitely needs to be putting that all in pre-flop. I'm not sure what he's doing there, but I got my money in good and held. This flop here, go ahead and raise with jacks. Pretty easy c-bet on the flop against this guy. This guy's playing 37-15, so it's going to be a very, very standard c-bet. This turn is kind of interesting. This is actually a really interesting hand to debate. I'm not 100% sold on my play, but I think I played it the best of my ability. I didn't really like the king. Like, when he calls the flop, obviously there's a really wide range. It's only 27 hands in him, but he seems like a loose passive guy that plays a really wide range. But he has got a little over a pot size bet left, so it's going to be very awkward. I guess I could bet here, maybe like I could probably bet here like 350 and fold to a raise, and then just check fold river if he bets. If he has like an 8 or something, I don't think he's gonna turn that into a bluff or. I'm not really sure. It's kind of a weird spot. Maybe like betting half pot here and then folding is the best play. The thing is, if I'm betting here, it's probably just to get value from like 8x. Maybe something like ace-5 with ace of hearts or pocket nines with the 9 of hearts. I guess there is some value in betting that, but he's not going to really have a king that often in his range. And I'm probably just going to get destroyed by a flush if he has a flush. So I'm trying to think about whether I actually get value here by betting. And I figure if he has any sort of hands, he's probably just going to check it back because these players aren't really capable of going for thin value. So I figured he'd play his hand pretty straightforward. So I actually ended up checking here. I'm not sure if that's the best play. In hindsight, I think maybe betting small, like really small, is good, and then just obviously folding to a shove all in. So I end up doing that, and he bombs it. So when he bombs it here, he's not going to be doing this with an 8. He might do this if he has like 6-7 with a 7 of hearts, or I don't know, something like that, or I'm not really sure, but it's just one of those hands where he's kind of polarizing his range in a way, and it's just one of those times where like playing in this spot is just really bad against his range. I definitely think I should just bet small, and I end up just check folding, which seems really weak, but he shows the flesh, and I think given my reads on him, it's a pretty reasonable play, but it's probably not optimal. With the 4s here, I just raised pre-flop, I believe, and then got called out of the blinds. This sort of board is just a pretty easy stab. Stab around a half pot and then try to take it down. The reason is because it's like ace high with 2 low cards. The guy's either going to have like an ace or not, and he's going to play it straightforward, so I see bet half pot as a bluff. Even though my hand might be best a good chunk of the time, it has really bad equity, so... top left is a limp pot. I'm in the big blind. I flop a queen on the flop, but I'm not gonna really lead out here. I think this is a decent spot to go ahead and lead out though, because there are like flush and straight draws on board that a 22-6 can hit. So the worst thing is when you like dunk down and the guy just calls you down with like Queen 10 offsuit or something. I'm definitely betting this if I have like Queen 10, Queen Jack. I just felt that Queen 9 was kind of like one of those borderline hands. I think if I had like Queen 7, I'm definitely just like check calling here. So I kind of played Queen 9 here like I would if I had like Queen 7. So I go ahead and check call, and then I being top 2 pair on the turn. So I don't know. I figured that I could just go for a check raise all in here. Another good option would just be to like lead out here because there's going to be a decent amount of draws in his range. So I don't think I really played this 100% optimally, but I go for the check shove and he folds and shows the queen of diamonds. So I'm not really sure. Like if he folded top pair and a flush draw, he's crazy. But maybe he just had like, I don't know, Queen 7 offsuit or something. Who knows? He must have had just like a weak queen. But I'm not sure what sort of queen he would limp in with that wasn't suited if it's a weak queen. And if he had something like Queen Jack or Queen 10, I think he'll call it off there, but maybe not. So I don't know. Maybe he has like Queen Jack or Queen 10. That's really the only hands I can put him on. I don't think people fold there with top pair and the flush draw. But he goes ahead and limps the next hand as well too. So. Going around, and these are it's one of those times where the 4x speed is way better. Got the ace-8 suited in the top left here, and the 7-8 suited. 7-8 suited just in the cutoff, fairly standard open. Ace-8 suited. This is my friend to the right, my friend Derek, Project 6. He's a Grinder School instructor as well. If you want to check him out, check out nitreg.com/gs. You can get your Grinder School subscription. Both me and Project S1X are coaches there and do videos. But yeah, he's a very, very solid player. He doesn't really get too out of line. Whenever I sit at a table, I don't like to sit to his right because it's just probably not going to be that profitable for me. He's just solid, and pretty much anything I do but fold is going to be negative EV for me, unless I have like aces or something. But anyway, he's got a 70% fold to 3-bet. he four bets a decent amount and he balances it fairly well against me, but he still plays fairly straightforward out of position, especially out of position. So I think this is a good hand to three bet. It's really weak, so you like can't call it in position, but I think it's a good three betting hand, and he just goes ahead and folds. The pocket fives in the middle. Why isn't this pausing? Oh my gosh. Okay, there we go. Not sure what happened there. Oh wait, it's still going. Wow, that was weird. Okay, so basically, my computer has a mind of its own, and it just decided to keep playing it, even though I was trying to pause. But anyway, fives. I flop a set against this guy who's a fish, so this is going to be a pretty easy, just like, bomb it down and get all of his money in sort of thing. This 7-8 suited hand, the bottom right, was a very interesting hand. On the flop, it's one of those questions like, should I bet, should I check? It's kind of a debated spot, I would say. But I decided to bet here because this guy is a 2011 player and he folds the C bets 34%. That's what that stat is right there in the middle in the turquoise color, or I don't know, teal or whatever. I'm really bad with colors. But yeah, he like doesn't like to fold, so maybe he calls with ace highs and any pair or something like that. So I decided that this would be a worthwhile spot to just go ahead and c bet like half pot for very thin value, pretty marginal play. And I'm not going to be like barreling him down or anything. I'm probably just going to bet once and then check down. But yeah, I felt that there is some value here against the vast majority of players. I probably just check this spot unless I was trying to turn middle pair into a bluff. But yeah, it's just one of those spots where it's very hard to get value from. But I think this is one of the rare spots where there is thin marginal value. And then the top center, I have ace king here, and I'm most likely just going to three bet this guy, and I do three bet him pretty big because he's just a loose fish, or that's what his stats indicate so far. He might just be a reg. Who knows? I open ace five suited because the button is a massive nit, and I don't know. I'm just gonna get respect a lot, get a lot of folds. This purplish color, as you can see, like I'm bad with colors, but I'm a very visual person, so colors make sense to me. So I made it purple since I use this stat a lot. It just sticks out for me. That's their fold to steal percentage. So these guys are just giant nits. They fold to steals 80%, 83% over a large sample size. So against them, I need to be stealing close to 100% of my range. Not close to 100, but just like a very massive amount. I'm not sure exact numbers, but maybe definitely above like 70%. It's probably in a vacuum just profitable to steal with any two cards, but the thing is that if I start doing that, they might adjust because they're regs and they might eventually start getting butthurt that I keep stealing against them. So I do throw in a fold there once and again. If I have like deuce 7 offsuit, but definitely if I have like queen deuce suited, I'm 100% opening that, or 3-7 suited or something. I'm gonna fold the like 3-7 offsuit, but I'm stealing against those guys a lot. But I digress from that little rant. Ace king offsuit, top left, easy raise. Ace queen offsuit, bottom middle, I raise. It's kind of debated whether you should open up ace king in early position. It depends who you are, so really, like on your post flop abilities and stuff like that. I think for me it's technically slightly negative EV, but that's usually at higher stakes. At these lower stakes, when there's a lot of fishier players, especially this short stack fish in the big blind, too many flops. I think it's going to be profitable. Like there's no one to my left that's going to be like a huge pain in the butt for me. There's one reg to my left winning flops on 76. He seems fairly decent, but other than that, there's like just a bunch of fish. So I'm very confident playing ace queen out of position against fish. Pretty much just flop pairs and value on them, and I get ace queen offsuit again and just raise it up again. Same reason. This is a really weird hand, and I think I played it wrong. I need to double check here what's going on. I was kind of like doing stuff at the time and I wasn't paying attention, so definitely a negative EV play, but I guess we'll see. So go ahead and c bet here. I've got it an overcard and the nut flush draw, so very easy c bet. He goes ahead and raises it, just a decent size. I'm getting 364 into a pot that's 911, and he's got 1542 behind. So direct odds, I'm getting close to 3 to 1, or like a little under 3 to 1. But I do have some implied odds. So essentially, I think if this guy raises here, he's probably not gonna like give up that often. I'm not really sure. I mean, I got a ton of equity, but who knows? It's just a really weird hand. But I think in general here, it's safe to say that, oh, if the flush comes, I don't know if I get paid off 100%. I mean, if the flush comes on like the turn and he's got pocket eights or something, I'm probably just gonna get a stack, and he's just gonna be a fish that's like, whatever. I have a set. Let's boat up. It's not 100% of the time he'll do it, but who knows? But that's the top of his range. So essentially, I'm kind of getting like 360. I have to put 364 in the pot to win somewhere around like $25. So that's like 7.5 to 1. I don't know. Maybe my math's a little off. It's kind of late at night for me. But I think that's like 7.5 to 1, and I have 9 nut outs, and I have maybe an aces and out. Like if this guy's raising king queen with like the queen of clubs, he might have like an actual flush here, which would kind of suck for me. But that's kind of rare. I don't know. It's a really interesting spot. I'm curious to see what you guys think. I think maybe in this spot it's okay to just. It's so close. Like if he was deeper, I would definitely like peel one, but I don't know. It could just be a fold. I'm really curious to see what you guys say. I think it's going to be kind of marginal either way, but I think just given how little he has behind, it's just going to be weird. Like let's say I call here and the pot's $12 and he has 1542 behind, and it's like the 3 of clubs. Do I get a stack? I don't know. It's kind of a weird spot. So I don't know. It's hard for him to be semi bluffing as well, since I have the ace of clubs. So I think jamming here is bad. So it's just one of those math problems. But I think it's a slightly negative EV play. But anyway, I go ahead and call. And at this point, I hit top pair, and it's kind of deceiving, I think, because when he shoves all in here, like he's gonna have a hand that's really strong here. I'm pretty sure he's gonna have a hand that's really really strong, unless he's the only other hand that I can possibly think of that is something spazzy, like I don't know, ace queen with a queen of clubs or something, but that's just not really reasonable. I think the vast majority of the time here he's gonna have 2 pair or better, and this should just be a fold, I believe. I've got a really pretty looking hand, but it's just not. I don't know. It's just given his range, it's just not a hand that I don't think I'm ahead of. It's one of those math hands though, so maybe I can go ahead and do this later, another video for you guys on this hand just by itself. So let's go ahead and just continue. And I call. He has the flush, and I bink river like a champ. That's what you do when you are a coach. You bink. Play bad, teach good, make money. Yeah, I think there I normally fold. I think I fold a flop some percentage of the time, and I definitely fold by the turn a lot of the time. I'm pretty rusty though. I ran bad like 2 weeks ago, and I took the longest break off poker since starting to play. I think, um, like in the last 3 years or so, like a little over 3 years. Uh, I don't think I've taken more than a week off, and I took something like 8 or 9 days. I'm played a little rusty, but that's not really an excuse. I should be playing 100%. What also didn't help was that I bought Star Wars: The Old Republic, and I don't know. That was a negative EV decision on my part, because it's most likely going to consume a huge percentage of my life for at least like a month or two. But anyway, I go ahead and isolate with nines here against this guy who limp calls. This is a really weird hand too, and I'm really curious to see how you guys would play this, or what you guys think I might play. Um, it's a very, very interesting hand. So this he has a very, very wide range. It looks like it's only 23 hands, but he seems to be fairly laggy. These sort of guys will have all sorts of hands. So he goes ahead and c bets under third pot, which is really weird. I figure I'm in position and I've got a made hand. So I think I can call here once and kind of just see what's up on the turn. So I decide to call. And turns a jack and he checks. So this just looks kind of weak. He might be like trying to trap or something, but if he's trapping, I'll know pretty fast. There are a lot of draws he could have. He could have any sort of like flush draw, straight draw, gut shot. I guess he could have a king, but who plays a king this way? And it's possible, but also if I bet here, it's basically just it's betting for value, but it's also for protection as well. There's a lot of hands that might have decent equity here, but don't feel strong enough betting. So it's just one of those spots where I'm going to bet around half pot just for value. Not much that's going to call that's worse, but oh, it's acting up again. There we go. Okay, so sorry about that. It didn't want to pause. So this is a really weird spot. Like he goes ahead and check calls the turn, which just to me kind of looks like he has a draw. Maybe a king or something that's just playing weird. And then he goes ahead and donks half pot on the river when it was like the brickiest card in the world. I think right here he's just not really gonna have that strong of a hand that often. I think the strongest hand he could possibly have is maybe something like King 10 or King Queen or something. But when King 10 or King Queen plays really weird like this, they're playing it like a blocking bet, and when people do blocking bets, theoretically they fold to raises. So that's kind of what went through my head. The top of his range is blocking, and then the other percentage is like air or something weird that is blocking as well. I really don't think he has a jack that often. He probably would have played flop differently. He probably would have played turn differently. He would have like check raised or something, or just continue to barrel since he actually picked up a strong hand. So when he like c bets tiny, check calls turn, and then leads half pot on river, I don't know. He induced the spaz in me, so I go ahead and raise. And I raise it pretty big, just because if he has like a king, I want him to fold. I think there's a couple kings in his range, and sometimes people get tilted and just decide to call off. If I make it a small raise, even though the logic should be the same for him, some people just, if I raise it to like 850 or something, he might just be like, well, it's so small, so whatever, I'll call here. I figure if I make it big, he's just gonna fold a decent amount, and I don't think I have to make it this big. I'm not quite sure why I made it this big. I think the time was running down, and I just like started mashing buttons or something. It's a little too big. I think maybe like $11 is good. Maybe $10 is good as well. This is a bluff, so the cheaper I could make it, the better it is for me. It makes a cheaper price. And he goes ahead and just jams over the river. So right here, he's obviously got the nuts. So I'm just gonna fold. But I think my play up. I played this fairly well. It's very likely that I could have a jack here. Like I'm representing a jack, or better. I think the hand he has is gonna be like pocket kings, king jack, pocket jacks, and pocket threes, and I don't think he can really have any other hand. He just when fish play like this, they've got the nuts. Um, I think if I had like Jack 10 here, I'd probably fold. Oh, I don't know. I would have to think about it, but I'm leaning towards fold just off the top of my head. Um, we didn't really see this bottom left hand, so let's go back to that. Um, Here we go. So now in the bottom left, I go ahead and isolate here, out of position. This guy goes ahead and limps in the cutoff, which is really weak. And I've got this fish to my left in the big blind, so I go ahead and just c-bet for value. Obviously, I've got top pair good kicker. When he calls, like he could definitely have a wide range, and I think barreling this turn is pretty good. At the time, if I barrel this turn, it's kind of like thinner value. But at the time, I was kind of thinking like, if I'm raising from the small blind, he calls in the big blind, he's usually going to have a fairly strong range. He is 40-13, but my hand looks really strong, so I don't think he's going to have like queen 10 here that often. But I don't know, just thinking back on it now, he definitely could have like queen 10 suited, just because he's a 40-13. It's over a small size, but it's definitely possible. He could have more dominant hands. So I actually decided to check, which is possibly kind of bad. I think it is kind of bad. Like, probably just bet turn. River would have been weird. Trying to decide what I would do. It's a really awkward hand to play out of position. But at this point, it's really weird. Like, he goes ahead and stabs, and he can have all sorts of stuff. I think he could definitely have like draws and whatnot, which is another reason why I should have bet the turn. But my thinking on the river was he's gonna have all sorts of draws that hit like second or third pair. So I decided to make a little tiny blocking bet, like $2. And I think that's good because this is the type of person who's exploitable. He's got a very wide range. He's 40-13, and he's fairly passive. He's just like call, and if he has a big hand, raise. So he's very straightforward. If he raises, it's a very easy fold. He's not gonna take like queen 10 and raise for value there, and he's not gonna take like second pair top kicker and turn into a bluff or something. Fish don't do that. He's gonna have a pair and either be like, oh shoot, okay, well, I guess I'll call this tiny bet, or he's gonna have a big hand, but he might have like ace queen or something and be like, well, I can't raise for value. There's like two pairs. I'm scared. And he'll just call. So I think my river play is good. But other than that, I think every street minus the flop and the river are bad. Yeah, I'm pretty rusty. I'm going through this video and finding a whole lot of mistakes on my part. And I've been having a downswing, so it's good for me to actually go over this as well. Because I didn't think I played that terribly. I knew I didn't play optimally, but now that I'm going over it, I'm just seeing how terrible I'm playing. So this is good for me to see as well. It's good commentary for you guys as well too, because I think a lot of you guys would make the same mistakes that I'm making tonight. It's pretty easy to make those mistakes, especially if you're not playing your A game. Reg just goes ahead and opens. I'm gonna 3-bet. Pretty standard. Weird flop. Ace Jack 6 Rambo. I think if I bet here, I'm not gonna really get that much value. Maybe like pocket queens would peel once or something, but I just had to check. Get value on the turn or river. Turns a jack, which is interesting. Again, it's kind of the same thing, but I think that I would get more value betting the river than if I bet the turn. And it's not like there's going to be a card that sucks out on me on the river. My hand is either like pretty far ahead or pretty far behind. So I see an argument for betting this turn, but I think if I'm going to get one street of value, I might as well do it on the river when either he decides to stab at it with his air, or if the river comes and I can just bet and he'll call me with some, third pair or something. So I'd go ahead and decide to do that. And the 9 comes. 9's not really my favorite hands. I think a lot of his flatting range is going to be like 9s through jacks. Uh, Maybe like queens sometimes. Maybe like 8 sometimes as well. So the 9 isn't my favorite card in the world, but I still am going to go with my plan. And, just bet kind of small here, like half pot. And he pays me off. And he ends up showing 10s. So it was kind of interesting. I'm trying to think about his play. I don't really like it. I mean, I can see why he called, but I'm not betting that. I'm not playing like that unless I have a hand, and I'm not going to be value betting worse. Like I'm not going to be value betting a 9 there, or maybe I will sometimes, but I think the vast majority of people don't. So he's kind of just trying to like pick off bluffs. And if I had a bluff, I would probably just bet the flop. And I definitely bet the turn, buy the turn. So it would be weird if I like 3-bet, I don't know, say Queen 8 suited, check the flop for whatever reason, check the turn for whatever reason, and then decide to bluff like some irrelevant 9 on the river. Like it just doesn't. That's just kind of what he's hoping that I'm doing when he calls with a 10. Either that, or I have like I don't know 9-10 suited, and instead of bluffing the flop return, hit third pair on the river and went for thin value. It's just super goofy. Like I think he should just fold the 10s, but that's the type of mistakes that regs at micro stakes and small stakes make. I definitely make them every now and again as well. If you stop and think about it, it makes sense not to check call the river there, but in the heat of the moment, you're just like, yeah, screw it. This guy hasn't been betting, and the 9 comes, and I haven't overpaired the 9. I gotta call, right? But if you stop and think about it, it's just your hand's probably not gonna be good there that often. So I got my deuces in the bottom middle, and it's not pausing again. There we go. I thought this guy limped under the gun, the short stack guy. So I decided to like over limp to play a pot multi-way in position with deuces, but little did I know after I clicked over limp, I realized that he was actually the big blind, and I'm just a giant fish open limping, the hijack with deuces. So yeah, that was bad, but that's basically a misclick. So I just fold. There's no point in like limp calling. Limping is really bad. If you guys don't know that already, check out my videos on nitrig.com. I've got some videos on like opening hand ranges, and I think I have an article or two on why you shouldn't limp or why you should always come in for a raise. It just makes no sense to be like limping in online. When you're in a live game, like limping is the nuts in a lot of spots, but I'm just not gonna do it online that often. I'm gonna over limp sometimes, but especially at the micro stakes. But open limping is just really bad. Anyway, I decided to go ahead and flat 4-5 suited, I believe. I think it was like a min open, and I flop a flush draw, which is good enough for me to continue. Up in the top left, I have pocket 9s. I went ahead and opened, and the kind of fishier loose passive player calls in the big blind. I have 9s, so I'm just going to see bet and go for value there. Bottom right, I went ahead and isolated, I believe, and got looked up in the big blind, and the original limper called. This is an interesting spot. I think it's one of those spots where I'm just going to see bet bluff a lot of the time. The guy who called me, I have a decent sample size on him, and he just check folds the river a lot, 61%. So, or he folds the C bet 61%. So, I think I'm just going to go ahead and steal there a good chunk of the time. So, with that being said, I go ahead and do all that on all the tables. So, let's see what happens. So in the bottom right, they all go ahead and fold. Top left, the guy goes ahead and folds when I have the overpair. And in the top middle, I called the guy's c-bet. He had a really weak c-bet, and then the board pairs, and he just checks to me. To me, that just looks really weak, especially when he has this wide of a range. I'm just going to stab here 100%, try to take it down with 5 high. I'm just going to win it a lot, so just make a solid size bet and win a lot. Calling with the 8s here. A little speculative. Like I fold, I 100% fold if aces for ace high or whatever this guy's name is. If this guy folds, I fold as well. But you know, he's a giant fish, so I figure with 2 fish in the pot and the guy under the gun who never raises when he's 4xing it in an online game, I gotta call in position with 8s and try to set mine him. Set mine all of them, and there's a bunch of fish behind me who will call as well, who are deeper and give me better implied odds. So, by the way, sorry, I'm just talking. I don't have water next to me, but by the way, this guy that opens under the gun is a giant nit. He never opens. He only opens like 4% of his hand range. So I'm only gonna call, or I'm only gonna play for set value. Like here, I have an overpair, but I'm just gonna fold to any c-bet by him. You know, I see a lot of people get trapped in these spots because they can't get away from their overpair. I mean, here it's easy because this guy shoves behind the c-better pots, and then this guy shoves all in, so it's very easy to fold. But I see a lot of people, like, I don't know, if I'm watching like Live at the Bike or something, you know, you see people like sigh and hesitate and tank for 3 minutes and then finally fold. Like, it's just it's such an easy fold. Like, I would turbo fold this within 5 seconds. Kind of annoys me at casinos and stuff, but whatever. You know, let the people think. You know, I also see it online as well. Like, if I'm in this guy's spot and I see bet here with an overpair, you know, I see people call down with like weak overpairs as well, and it's just really bad. If you're calling with a pair pre-flop, you need to have an idea what you're doing. Like, if I call jacks pre-flop here or queens, it's because I specifically think that my hand not only has set money value, but my hand is gonna be, you know, the best hand a lot of the time, and I can play it pretty straightforward post flop. Just treat it like a good top pair hand. You know, if I have a hand like pocket 8s, that my plan, like I mentioned to you guys, was just to set mine, and I gotta stick with that. I can't be like calling to set mine, but then, you know, calling down with a pair of 8s. You know, it's not gonna work out against a nit multi-way. If this guy's c-betting, especially pot multi-way on a really dry board, you know, he's gonna have at least an overpair. If he shows up with anything less than 9s here, I would be very surprised. So I go ahead and steal with ace-5 offsuit here. Both of these guys check. It's kind of an interesting spot. Just decided to take a stab here. We got the nut flush draw, and they've both shown weakness twice now, so I think I'm going to take it down enough. And if I don't, I have an ace out and I have a diamond out. But they both go ahead and fold, which is awesome. This guy posts under the gun here on the top left. I have queen 10 offsuit, so I'm just gonna go ahead and raise to isolate. And sorry for sorry for the tables flying around. One of my tables broke, and I just kind of like bringing all these tables in and out, and it's gonna be like that for a little bit. So I'll try to pause it and mention the tables and make it as easy as possible for you guys. So I'll go ahead and put that in. Okay. So pretty much nothing happened except for the top left. Top left, I went ahead and isolated with queen 10 offsuit. The guy limp call, or he posted and then called my raise. You know, he's gonna have so many hands here. I have history with him. He's a 37-2, so he's a very loose passive player. He's gonna have all sorts of hands here. So I've got a gut shot, and I'm just gonna bet here. He's not gonna have an ace that often. He's not gonna have a king that often. I think a lot of his ace X's are just gonna raise pre-flop because he posted. I find when people like post, they'll widen their value range. Like any ace or any solid king, they're just gonna raise pre-flop. Just be like, oh well, I posted, might as well come in for a raise. I'm not really afraid of that. I'm just gonna take a stab here. If I stab like half pot, he only has to fold 33% of the time for it to be profitable for me. And on top of that, I've got a gut shot, and maybe a queen out is good or a 10 out. If he decides to peel with a 9 every once in a while. It's very profitable here. Just fold equity alone is super profitable. But on top of that, I've got a gut shot to the gut shot outs, and maybe I bank a 10 on the turn, and then I check it back, and a 10 comes on the river or something. Just random stuff like that. I've got a ton of equity just to go ahead and see bet here is a semi bluff. So I go ahead and see bet about half pot, and he just folds. A very interesting spot in the bottom left. I should have folded this pre-flop. The reason is because the guy to my left is a loose passive player. I originally stole just because the guys in the blinds were just kind of nits. As you can see, that purple number in the bottom left. The top right of their HUD is that purple number. That's their fold to steal percentage. That's their fold to steal is super high, so I'm just gonna be stealing all day against them. And Queen 8 suit is a really good hand to steal. Unfortunately, there's a loose passive to my left, and this guy's gonna want to see every single flop and try to flop stuff and chase his draws and whatnot. So opening a hand like Queen 8 suited is not going to be profitable. I'm just not going to be able to bluff him off hands that often. I'm not going to be able to, profitably value bet against him. If I had a queen, how do I value bet with an 8 kicker? You can't. It's just a pretty easy fold pre-flop. I made a mistake there, but that being said, I flop second pair on the flop. So this is a very thin value bet spot, which I don't see that many people doing. And it goes back to that video that I made. I think it's the most important video on my site on netreg.com. It's when should I bet, should I bet or here or whatever. It's basically about when you should value bet or when you should check. And it goes over value betting. Value betting is betting because you think they'll have a worse hand that will call. Whereas if you're bluffing, it's betting with a hand that you think is worse, that will get a better hand to fold. So here, just looking at his stats, 36-7, he's going to have so many draws. And he, so far, only over 14 hands, he's folded to 0% of, continuation bets, which doesn't really mean much, but this tells me that he has the possibility of coming along with a decent number of hands. So I think I can go ahead and see bet here for value. He'll definitely call with, a 7, I think. He'll call with worse 8s. If he has a jack, he'll call as well. If flush draws, gut shots, he'll probably peel as well. So this is for value. It's just super thin. So I'll go ahead and see that he folds. So that's probably a really good scenario for me. It's just an instant win. I'm very happy with that because turn and river situations in those spots get really weird. So And don't ask me how I'd react because I don't know. It's very dependent on the card that comes. And if you really want to get super in depth into it, you can do a ton of math on it and figure out ranges and whatnot. And it's gonna be hard for this guy. We're just gonna have to do a lot of guessing because we don't have that many hands. But let's say you have like a million hands in this guy and you have his range down 100%. You can just go through all the math and figure out what's profitable, what's not, and maybe I can do a video on that in the future. I'm not the best math guy in the world, but I know it enough to where I can function properly. Once you start getting into really complex spots with very marginal edges, that's where I lose. Well, I don't really lose, but that's where I'm kind of ineffective in a way because it takes a long time for me to figure out what's correct and what's not. So you don't really get in those spots when you're at micro stakes and small stakes that often. So it's not a big deal for me. But definitely, if you're thinking about progressing, becoming a high stakes or even mid stakes player, you gotta really get your math down. And it's not while you're at the table; it's while you're off the table. Just really go over hands and get down concepts, and that way when you're at the tables you can apply those math concepts that you did as homework. So here I opened ace jack offsuit. I think I isolated someone, and then this guy calls in the small blind and it's heads up. I just decided to check here. This is one of those another type of hand, like should I c bet sort of deal. Um, again, I would refer you to that video. Should I bet? Uh, if you bet here, are you bluffing? Are you betting for value? Most people don't know. That's why they're confused and they don't know whether they should bet or not. Well, I don't know either because it doesn't really make sense to bet for value. Like, what hand calls you that's worse? I mean, there's a couple of like random hands that like random flush draws or something that they have pretty decent equity against us. They got 6 pair outs and 9 flush outs, so 15 outs altogether. That's 30% chance for the turn they're gonna hit, and they actually might be a favorite for the entire hand. So that's not really that good for me to try to value bet like flush draws or whatever. Um, I don't know. You can't really value bet here. The vast majority of his hands that are gonna fold are gonna be worse than us. So are we bluffing? Well, if we're bluffing out worse hands, then we're really not bluffing. Because remember, bluffing is betting, trying to get a better hand to fold. Um, I guess not always, but like right here, I think the vast majority of his range, like remember he plays 40% of his hands, the vast majority of his range we're ahead, but we're not going to get value. So it's just one of those spots where I'm just going to check, try to get to showdown. It's just one of those showdownable hands. Like it's going to be good a lot, and this guy's going to play fairly straightforward. He's not aggressive at all. His aggression factor is 0.7, so it's just pretty easy to play. But he goes ahead and checks on the turn. On the turn, he just goes ahead and turbo checks back to me. So I just decided to take a half ply stab at it. I kind of turn the best hand into a bluff. But if you think about it, like let's say he has like 9-10 offsuit. He's gonna have 12 outs, something like that. I'm sorry, he's gonna have 6 outs, but that's like 12%, maybe like 13%, something like that. Why give him that free 13%? So, I guess you can make that argument on the flop as well, but if I check back the flop, maybe the turn comes a jack, and I value own his like jack 10 or something. So I don't know. And then there's a couple of guys as well that that might like stab the turn, and you can peel one with ace high or whatever. Or if the turn's like a 3 of hearts, I could probably peel one and then check back river if I miss, and ace high be good sometimes. And it's just like one of those weird spots. But if you think about the logic of it, you can't really value bet and you can't really like bluff. So, I guess on the turn I like turn my hand into a bluff, but it's the majority of it. I mean, it's primarily as a bluff. I just turn my hand into a bluff. It's pretty much just to get my equity. I guess it's for value then. It's just like one of those weird spots where you're kind of in between. I guess by definition I have to say it's by value. It's for value. Now that I think about it, just because he might call with some worse hands like straight draws and flush draws, and ace high is good. But the vast majority of my equity in this hand is going to come from him. Just like folding out his equity, any equity that he has in the pot. But for a hand that was only like 60 cents or whatever, I spent a lot of time talking about that. Let's move on. But yeah, I spent a long time talking about little tiny hands like that, and some of you guys might get frustrated with me, but seriously, like that's kind of like important stuff. The hand's not big, and it's not like watching poker on TV where they just get in like ace king versus queens, and it's a big pot and it's exciting. Poker, the vast majority of poker isn't exciting. It's just like little things like that, and those little things add up. Good players win like 2 to 4 big blinds per 100. For every 100 hands, they win 2 big blinds. So think about that. If you're at a casino, you get 30 hands an hour. Let's just say every 3 hours, you're gonna win 2 big blinds. So if you play your local 1-3 game, that's $6 every 3 hours, and that's a solid winning player, at least in the online world. Well, that's so minuscule. You're playing with $300 stacks, and you're winning $6 over 3 hours or $2 an hour. That's a week. Well, that's what poker is. It's boring, and you win little bits of money here and there. It's not like you just sit down and start stacking donks left and right. It's literally just like making zero mistakes and winning on the little tiny edges. And every now and again, you'll cooler someone and get set over set or something and take up their entire stack. So you know, it's very important to pay attention to these like little tiny spots and figure out optimal ways to exploit people, optimal ways to get the most amount of money, optimal ways to lose the least amount of money. That's very important as well. It's just very important to follow along with those things. We're approaching about the half-hour mark. I don't want to make this video too long. That's why I made it 4x. But apparently I talk a lot. It's probably because I talk about 60-cent pots. My throat's starting to give out. So maybe I'll go for another few more minutes and then maybe make a 2-part series or something. So anyway, here with the Queen 4 suited, like I said before, I'm going to steal with a really wide range if people fold the steals a lot. Like, this guy seems like a loose passive, but so far he's folded 100% to steals, so I'm just going to kind of keep that up until he kind of shows me that he's not folding the steals a lot. So I go ahead and steal with Queen 4 suited, and he calls, and, I bink a flush like a champ. I'm the best. I flop the second nuts. So this is just a very easy value spot. And then ace is obviously just going to be betting at raising. It just goes ahead and check folds, which is unfortunate. And aces get the walk. No action from me. Wah wah wah. But so is life. 4x, 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 go, go, go. 5-3 offsuit, fold. 7-8 offsuit, fold. 8-10 offsuit, fold. Yeah, there we go. Aces. That's what I'm talking about. Oh. King Jack at bottom right is just a fold. I'm going to come out with a 4-ring hand chart as soon as I can, but that should come out pretty soon. That should be pretty helpful for a lot of you guys wondering what you should be doing at 4-ring in terms of what hands you should be playing and stuff like that. And as if people call with like King Jack offsuit out of position, it's really bad, just fold it. Aces just obviously isolate. Everyone's folding to me with my big hands. Just folding, not really getting hands. The A7 suited, people, this is another concept where that I get asked about quite a bit. Like when you should complete in the small blind. When should you? What type of hands should you complete with? Usually the type of hands I like to call with is if I'm fairly deep with a person. I mean, these people I'm not really deep with, but the other factors are like, I mean, they're deep enough for me. But the other factors are like, does my hand flop the nuts? With A7, I guess I could play it for one, possibly two streets if I hit top pair. It's not going to be the best top pair in the world, so that's why I'm not going to put too much money in, especially out of position. You're generally going to play pretty passively if I hit a one pair hand. But if I hit a flush draw, I can play it pretty aggressively. So I've got the nut flush draw. And, if I hit it, I have a chance of coolering someone, where someone limps in with, like, I don't know, 8, 9 of spades, and I have A7 of spades. I can get in a monster pot, flush over flush someone, or they can get in with, like, a flush draw and a gut shot, and I have, like, a flush draw and ace high, and I end up winning with ace high or something goofy like that. You'd be surprised how often that happens, and that kind of goes along with kind of the concept of coolering people. People think that, well, a lot of times you will just get coolered, and it will happen, but there's a lot of times where you can avoid getting coolered, and there's a lot of times where you can put people in spots where you cooler them. And this is just one of those spots. It's 15 cents. Like, if I hit my hand, I have a potential of winning, like, I don't know, $3 plus. For 15 cents, that's a pretty good investment, especially since A7 is quite possibly the best hand already, like Sklenci's Theory of Poker. Obviously I don't know their cards. If I knew their cards and I knew my A7 was the best, I would just shove all in. but I don't know it, so I'm just gonna let or complete, I should say. So anyway, the flop is kind of it's just super dry. It's 10-4-4. I mean, who hits that flop? So I don't really do that often, but I go ahead and don't bluff out. The reason is because I have 3 outs to an overcard, and I have flush outs as well. It's not the best thing in the world, but I just think that no one hits those flops, and people play pretty straightforward. So it's pretty easy to take blinds, and I really don't suggest like donk bluffing that often, especially multi-way, but every now and again, like every 15 or 20 times, I'll do it just for lulz. I think that's like a decent spot to do it, but I see people do goofy things like donk betting all the time, and they don't really have a reason why. They're just kind of like not sure, so that's why they do it. Like people that flop top pair no kicker and in weird spots. I don't know. There's just like weird spots where people donk bet. It just makes no sense whatsoever when you think about like, should I bet or should I not bet? That whole concept, and they just get in really weird spots because they have no idea what they're doing and they're just like pressing buttons. Here, I'm just stabbing and I'm gonna win a decent percentage of the time. And if I don't win, then I'm most likely just gonna give up. It's not a big deal. Like, okay, I put in 65 cents or whatever, so who cares? Anyway, let's move on. Let's do one more hand, and then I'll go ahead and make this a 2-part video. La di da 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 da. Yeah, I have a hand. Ace King offsuit in the bottom left. Ace King offsuit. Um, Very easy to open. Just get it fold. Everyone to fold. Queen nine's offsuit in the bottom right. I was in the big blind. I was a limp pot. It's heads up. Just check it. There's no reason to bet. Queen's here in the bottom left. Easy open. When he checks back the flop in the bottom right, on the 3-5 deuce 8 rainbow board, I just don't think he's gonna have that much. He's gonna have air a lot. Like, if he has an 8, he's gonna call here. Maybe like a flush draw, he'll call. Possibly if he has like a straight draw, he'll call. But if he has that, like, my hands, I had a decent number of the time. But I think also the majority of the time he's just gonna just fold. He's gonna have 2 random overs or something. So, queen high might not be the best a lot of the time. So I just decided to take a little stab here. And it works. Yay. So remember how I was saying like 2 BBs per 100 is pretty solid? Well, if you make, people play these little small pots pretty straightforwardly, so don't get too out of line and don't like start doing multi-barrel bluffs for 30 or 40 big blinds in a pot that's only like 4 big blinds big or whatever. Don't go crazy, but if you're in position or in a spot where your opponent's just gonna fold a lot, then take a lot of little stabs here and there. Start testing it out, because that's where a lot of your win rate will come. People will just say, "Oh, it's a 50-cent pot, and I don't have anything, so I'm just gonna fold." You'll be surprised how often that happens. So just kind of test it out in little spots. And if you're bluffing and they don't fold, don't feel committed to the pot. Like, just give up. The pot's 50 cents. Like, who cares? Just give it up. You took your shot at it, and you completely whiff. So, whatever. King Jack offsuit. I'm just gonna play this hand again. That's one of those hands like it's kind of borderline. It doesn't really hit nuts, but I think if I hit top pair, it's gonna be good to bet like 2 or 3 streets of value against this guy because he's a short stack fish. Like here it happened. I hit top pair, and I'm just gonna start betting. Get some value, especially on this whatever board. I wanted that to be the last hand, but I'm halfway through this ace 4 hand, so I guess I'll just run that out. Ace four suited. This is one of those spots where I don't mind limping, just because this guy's short stacked. But at the same time, a lot of times short stacks will just like limp and then fold because they don't want to invest that much of their stack, or they might limp call and then check fold the flop or something. They play very passively and straightforward. So it's one of those times where I can see like raising's okay or limping's okay. Limping's all right too because there's fish in the blinds, and ace four is a type of hand. Ace four suited is the type of hand that can hit the nuts. It can hit like a wheel, or it can hit the nut flush. So you can just get a ton of value that way. So I would definitely be limping for that reason. If I had like ace six offsuit, I'd be more inclined to either fold or raise. And I probably wouldn't limp that at all. But I think when you have a hand like ace rag, where you don't really get too much value. I mean, you get value if you raise with ace four, but like if you think about all the aces that call, you're getting dominated by like almost every single one. And the ones that you do beat, like ace three and ace deuce, a lot of the times you're gonna get in spots where you just chop at them, just because. Think about the boards like ace jack 10 6 whatever. You're gonna have your kicker isn't gonna play, and you're gonna play the board essentially like top pair plus the board, and both of you guys would. So whatever. Like you can't dominate people, but people can easily dominate you. Now obviously this guy plays a really wide range. He's just limp calling, so you can raise, and his 10-9 offsuit or whatever is gonna be bad. So that's why you can raise for value. But I guess post flop it's hard to get tons of value. Like if the flop comes ace jack 3 rainbow, you can't just like barrel off pot against this guy as you have top pair, just because he's not going to be calling off with worse that often. So it's just kind of something to think about. Mostly your raising ace four is just to like isolate with a better hand, and then it's basically Slance's theory of poker. Raise with the better hands. Post flop is tricky in certain spots. It depends what the flop is, but a lot of times you just kind of want to take advantage of your positional advantage and just start winning a lot of pots, like value betting in the appropriate spots and then bluffing in the appropriate spots. So I go ahead and raise, and this guy limp re-raises, which is the nuts essentially. Like if fish do that, it's the nuts. So anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and turn this into a two-part video. But I thank you guys for watching. Let me know what you guys think of this 4x speed. I really like this style. Just going over my videos, and I'm really happy to have got the inspiration to do this 4x video, because if I watch videos, it gets really boring sometimes. There'll be like 5 to 10 minutes where nothing happens. So I'm really glad we can just speed through and just talk about 50-cent pots or whatever. But no, there's some good hands to talk about. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. Be sure to follow me on Twitter, twitter.com twitter.com/nitregpoker, and check out nitreg.com. Be sure to sign up on my mailing list, and you'll get all of everything I do. And I'm not gonna like spam you to death. I don't really like sell anything. I guess I kind of indirectly sell my coaching, but definitely not required. Like the site is specifically made for you. It's just meant to be the best free content for poker online. I'm not here to like promote the world to you guys. Like I'm not here to spam you to death. Like I'm my mailing list, you can ask people. It's legit. It just comes out with my posts. So anyways, check that out. Sign up if you like my content, and I will see you guys later. Peace.